Hello there. Welcome. I am so glad that you have found your way here tonight. Find a comfortable position, a place where you can let go of the day and begin to unwind. Allow your body to sink deeply into the surface beneath you. Feel the gentle support of your bed, your couch, or wherever you have chosen to rest. Let the weight of your limbs grow heavy, releasing any tension you might be holding. Notice the air around you, the way it feels against your skin. Perhaps it is cool and still, or maybe you can feel a gentle breeze from an open window. Listen to the quiet sounds of your own space, the gentle hum of the house, the distant whisper of the world outside. These sounds are a part of your journey into relaxation. Before we begin our journey tonight, if you find this time together helpful, I would be so grateful if you would consider subscribing to this channel and liking this video. It helps our small community grow and reach others who might also be seeking a peaceful escape. And I would love to know where you are listening from and what time it is for you. Leave a comment below and connect with fellow listeners around the world. It is a wonderful way to feel a sense of shared calm, knowing that others are also settling down for the night, just like you. Our story today sets sail from a place of quiet reality, drifting away from the thunderous legends and into the gentle, lapping waters of the mundane. We are venturing into the heart of a Viking voyage, but we are leaving the swords and the glory on the shore. Our focus is the vast, uneventful expanse of the journey itself, the 99% of the time that was spent not in conquest, but in a state of profound and wearying boredom. It is here, in the endless, gray quiet, that we will find our own deep and tranquil rest. So allow your mind to close its eyes to the modern world and drift back to a misty fjord, where a longship is making its final, quiet preparations for the great empty sea. The morning is draped in a soft, pearlescent gray, a sky so uniform and placid that it seems to merge seamlessly with the still, cold waters of the fjord. The air itself is heavy with moisture, carrying the clean, sharp scent of distant pine forests and the underlying ancient smell of wet stone and salt. High, sheer cliffs rise on either side of the water, their peaks lost in a shroud of low-hanging mist, creating a sense of immense and silent enclosure. There is no sound of cheering crowds, no grand ceremony to mark the departure. The only noises are the gentle, rhythmic slap of water against the wooden hull of the ship and the muted, purposeful sounds of the crew as they move about the deck, their bare feet, making soft padding sounds on the damp planks. The longship, a vessel you have perhaps pictured as a ferocious beast of war, seems somehow tamer in this light, more a creature of burden than of battle. Its famed dragon-headed prow, carved with intricate and fearsome detail, seems to stare out at the fjord with a look of stoic resignation rather than aggression. The long, sleek lines of its hull speak of efficiency and endurance, a design perfected over generations not just for speed and a raid, but for the resilience needed to survive weeks, or even months, on an unforgiving and empty ocean. It is a tool, a transport, a floating, temporary home, and its primary purpose today is simply to endure the vastness that lies ahead. You can almost feel the texture of the world around you, the coarse, oily feel of the wool tunic on your shoulders, a garment designed for warmth and water resistance, not for comfort. You can sense the slight grit of sand and dirt on the deck planks beneath your feet, and the persistent, seeping dampness that seems to rise from the water itself. clinging to every surface. The world is a palette of muted tones, the gray of the water, the dark, wet brown of the wood, the deep green of the distant, unseen forests, and the pale, washed-out blue of the sky trying to break through the clouds. It is a world of substance and texture, but one drained of vibrant color, a fitting prelude to the monotony that is to come. The crew moves with a quiet, practiced economy of motion. There's little talk, for there is nothing that needs to be said. Each man knows his duty, a role rehearsed through countless similar preparations. Heavy sacks are passed from the shore to the ship, their lumpy forms suggesting their contents, not treasure, but the essentials of survival. There are sacks of hard chua, a rock-hard biscuit of flour and water that will form the basis of their diet, and bags of dried and salted fish, its pungent, oily smell a constant, lingering presence in the air. These are not foods of enjoyment, but of sustenance, calories to fuel the body through long days of labor and idleness. Barrels are rolled carefully up the gangplank, the heavy sloshing sound within them, speaking of their precious cargo, fresh water. This is the most vital provision of all, and its rationing will become a central drama of the voyage. The barrels are sealed with wooden bungs and coated in pitch, a desperate attempt to keep the contents from being contaminated by the salt of the sea. More barrels contain soured milk, a thick, tangy substance that will keep for longer than fresh milk, and a small supply of weak, flavorless ale. The loading is not a haphazard affair. Each item is stowed with care, its weight distributed precisely to ensure the ship remains balanced and stable in the open ocean. Alongside the provisions for the body are the meager comforts for the spirit. Each man carries a small personal bundle, a rolled-up woolen blanket, perhaps a spare tunic, and a few personal items: a whetstone for sharpening a knife, a small wooden carving begun on a previous voyage, a leather pouch containing a few treasured trinkets from home. These small personal worlds are stowed away in the narrow spaces between the rowing benches, the only claim to privacy in the utterly communal existence that awaits them. The ship is a shared space in the most absolute sense, and every inch of it is dedicated to the collective purpose of the journey. The farewells, when they happen, are as subdued as the rest of the morning's activities. A woman stands on the rocky shore, her hand resting on the head of a small child. She does not weep or call out. Her face is a mask of quiet composure, her eyes fixed on one of the men on the ship. He, in turn, meets her gaze, and for a long moment, a silent conversation passes between them. A conversation of love, of fear, of hope, and of the long, lonely nights that lie ahead for both of them. A simple nod is exchanged, a small, almost imperceptible gesture of acknowledgement and goodbye. This quiet, stoic ritual is repeated up and down the shore, a testament to a culture accustomed to such departures, a people who understand that the sea both gives and takes in equal measure. Then, the moment of departure arrives. There is no shouted order, no blast of a horn. The senior man on the vessel, the helmsman, simply gives a quiet command. The thick mooring ropes, dark and slick with water, are cast off from the shore posts with a dull thud. For a moment, the ship drifts, unmoored and silent, its connection to the land finally severed. Then the men take to the oars, not with the frantic, powerful strokes of battle, but with a slow, steady rhythm. The great, square sail, made of heavy, greased wool and dyed a deep, earthy red remains furled for now, useless in the still air of the enclosed fjord. The ship begins to move, gliding through the water with a surprising grace. The only sound is the rhythmic groan of the wooden oars in their locks, a sound like a slow, deep sigh. The shore begins to recede, the silent figures on the beach growing smaller and smaller until they are just indistinct shapes against the gray rock. The familiar smells of the land, the pine, the wood smoke, the damp earth begin to fade, replaced by the clean, sharp, and increasingly dominant scent of pure, open salt water. You are leaving the known world behind, pushing out into a realm of immense and intimidating emptiness. As the longship clears the mouth of the fjord, a new sensation makes itself known. The wind, which was absent in the sheltered waters, now begins to whisper against your face and tug at the loose edges of your tunic. It is a cold wind, carrying the chill of the northern sea, and it speaks of the vast open space you are now entering. The water, once as smooth as glass, is now stirred by the breeze, its surface textured with a million tiny ripples that catch the gray light. The ship begins to pitch and roll, a gentle but constant motion that will become the background rhythm of your life for the foreseeable future. The helmsman gives another quiet order, and the men begin the laborious process of unfurling the great sail. The heavy, damp wool resists, but with coordinated effort it is hoisted up the mast, where it hangs for a moment like a wet blanket before the wind begins to find it. The sail bellies out, at first tentatively, and then with a sudden, firm conviction it catches the full force of the wind. The ship heels over slightly and surges forward, its speed increasing noticeably. The rhythmic groaning of the oars ceases as the men ship them, their work done for now. The wind and the sea are now in control. Your world has now shrunk to the dimensions of this ship. It is perhaps 80 feet long and maybe 16 feet wide at its broadest point. This narrow sliver of wood is your entire universe, a tiny, man-made island in a wilderness of water. You find a place to sit on a hard wooden rowing bench, your back against the cold, curved side of the hull. Around you are the other men, their faces turned towards the sea, their expressions unreadable. The initial, minor activity of setting sail is over, and now the true nature of the voyage begins to settle in. The waiting. The hours begin to stretch out, long and featureless. The sun, a pale, indistinct disk behind the clouds, moves slowly across the sky, its passage marked only by the subtle shifts in the light. There is nothing to see in any direction but water. It is a restless, moving landscape of gray and green, heaving and falling in a slow, hypnotic rhythm. The horizon is a sharp, clean line, a perfect circle that surrounds you, emphasizing your isolation. The ship plows onward, the sound of the water rushing past the hull a constant, sibilant whisper. Conversation is sparse and utilitarian. A man might comment on the direction of the wind or the set of the sail, but there is no idle chatter. The first meal at sea is a somber affair. The hard chua is broken into smaller pieces, a difficult task that requires a strong hand or a sharp knife. The dried fish is chewed slowly, its salty, fishy taste clinging to the palate. You drink a small ration of the stale, lukewarm water, careful not to take too much. The act of eating is mechanical, a necessity to be dealt with rather than a pleasure to be savored. The men eat in silence, their eyes scanning the horizon out of habit, though they expect to see nothing. As the afternoon wears on, a deep and profound boredom begins to take root. Your mind, accustomed to the constant stimulation of life on land, struggles to find something to latch on to. You begin to notice the smallest details of your surroundings with an almost painful intensity. You study the grain of the wood on the bench in front of you, tracing the lines and knots with your eyes. You watch a drop of condensation form on a coil of rope, seeing it swell and tremble before finally falling to the deck. These tiny, insignificant events become focal points in a world devoid of larger ones. You might try to sleep, but the constant motion of the ship and the hardness of the deck make it difficult. You shift your position, trying to find a comfortable spot, but there are none to be found. The cold from the planks seems to seep into your bones, and the dampness makes your woolen blanket feel heavy and clammy. You are not yet accustomed to the ship's rhythm, and your body resists this new and unnatural state of being. You are in a state of limbo, neither fully awake nor truly asleep. The first sunset at sea is a moment of stark and lonely beauty. The clouds part for a brief period, and the setting sun paints the western sky with fleeting strokes of orange, pink, and gold. The water reflects these colors, creating a shimmering, momentary spectacle of light and color. For a few minutes, the world is transformed from a palette of grays into a masterpiece of fiery hues, but the beauty is tinged with a deep melancholy. It is a reminder of the passage of another day, a day spent in this floating prison, and a signal of the long, cold night that is to come. As darkness falls, the world shrinks even further. The horizon disappears, and you are enveloped in a blackness that is absolute. The only light comes from the stars, which on a clear night can be a breathtaking sight, a canopy of glittering diamonds scattered across the velvet of the sky. But on a cloudy night like this one, the darkness is total. The ship becomes a small, blind creature, feeling its way through an infinite blackness. The only sounds are the creaking of the mast, the groan of the rigging, and the endless whisper of the water, sounds that seem amplified in the absence of sight. The men huddle together for warmth, their bodies close, sharing the meager heat they can generate. The air grows thick with the smell of unwashed bodies, damp wool, and the ever-present odor of salted fish. Sleep, when it finally comes, is not a peaceful release, but a fitful and shallow state. You are rocked by the relentless motion of the sea, your dreams filled with fragmented images of home, of solid ground, of faces you long to see. You wake frequently, disoriented, the darkness absolute, the feeling of being lost and adrift in a vast and indifferent universe, a heavy weight upon your spirit. And when the morning finally comes, it brings with it not a sense of renewal, but a sense of repetition. The sky is the same shade of gray, the sea is the same restless expanse. The ship is the same cramped and uncomfortable space. The day ahead promises nothing new, only a continuation of the same monotonous existence. You eat the same bland food, perform the same simple tasks, and stare at the same empty horizon. This is the reality of the voyage. This is the 99%. It is not a saga of heroes and monsters, but a long, slow, and deeply boring story of human endurance against the crushing weight of nothingness. And it is in this profound boredom, this quiet misery, that your own mind can begin to let go, to release its grip on the busy world, and to drift into the calm, empty spaces of deep relaxation. The journey has just begun, and its very featurelessness is the lullaby that will guide you to sleep. The second day is indistinguishable from the first. The routines that were novel yesterday are now simply routines. The rhythm of the watch takes over. A few hours of duty, a few hours of rest. Those on watch are responsible for keeping the ship on course, trimming the sail to catch the shifting wind, and scanning the horizon. The scanning is the most tedious part of all. It is an act of sustained, hopeful attention directed at an empty canvas. The eyes strain, searching for any break in the monotonous line where sea meets sky, another ship, a distant coastline, a whale. But there is nothing. The sea is vast and empty, and you are utterly alone. During the hours of rest, there is little to do. Some men sit and stare at the water, their minds seemingly as empty as the view before them. Others attempt to mend their worn clothing, their fingers clumsy in the cold, damp air. The simple act of threading a bone needle with woolen yarn becomes a significant challenge, a task that requires intense concentration and focus, and thus a welcome distraction. A few men gather in a small group, their voices low and murmuring, but the conversations are brief and quickly peter out. The shared experience is one of monotony, and there is little to say about monotony that has not already been felt by all. The ship itself becomes an object of intense study. You learn its every sound, its every personality trait. You know the particular groan the mast makes when a strong gust of wind hits the sail. You can distinguish the sound of the water against the bow from the sound of it along the stern. The creaks and groans of the hull become a familiar language, a constant communication from the vessel that is keeping you alive. This intimate knowledge is born not of curiosity, but of a desperate need for sensory input in a world that offers almost none. The ship is your companion, your protector, and your prison. The physical discomforts become more pronounced. A constant, low-level ache settles into your muscles from sitting on the hard wooden benches. Your skin feels perpetually clammy, and a fine layer of salt seems to coat everything, including your own body. Small sores begin to develop on your hands from handling the rough, salt-stiffened ropes. These are minor afflictions, but in the absence of any other distractions, they can become a focus of irritation and misery. You shift your position endlessly, trying to find a posture that brings relief, but comfort is a forgotten luxury. The food, already unpalatable, becomes a genuine trial. The hard chewer seems to grow harder each day, and chewing it requires a concerted effort of the jaw. The dried fish is tough and stringy, and its relentless saltiness parches your throat, making the rationed water seem even more precious. You begin to dream of food, not of elaborate feasts, but of the simplest things: a piece of soft bread, a ripe apple, a cup of fresh, cool milk. These memories of taste and texture are vivid and tormenting, a stark contrast to the bland and difficult reality of your current diet. The third day passes, and the fourth. Time begins to lose its sharp edges, its familiar divisions melting away. Without the clear markers of life on land, the crowing of a rooster, the ringing of a village bell, the social gatherings of the evening, the days begin to bleed into one another. You mark time only by the changing of the watch and the position of the sun when it is visible. Was that yesterday that a particular cloud formation drifted by, or the day before? The lack of new experiences causes memory to blur, and the recent past becomes a hazy, undifferentiated fog of grayness and gentle rocking. You begin to retreat into the landscape of your own mind, for it is the only place where there is any variety or color. You walk the familiar paths of your home village, feeling the soft earth beneath your feet. You can smell the wood smoke from your own hearth, a scent so real that for a fleeting moment you are convinced you are there. You can hear the laughter of your children, the sound so clear and bright it makes your heart ache with a dull, persistent pain. These journeys into memory are both a comfort and a torment, a reminder of the vibrant, living world you have left behind, and a stark contrast to the gray, half-living existence you now endure. The sea itself, at first a source of awe and fear, becomes an object of indifference. Its endless rolling motion, once hypnotic, is now simply tiresome. You no longer see the beauty and the play of light on the water. You see only a vast, featureless plain that separates you from your destination. The ocean is an obstacle, a great watery desert that must be crossed. Its moods, from placid calm to restless chop, are no longer fascinating phenomena of nature, but simply variations in the character of your prison. You have become numb to its majesty, your senses dulled by overexposure to its unchanging face. A week passes. You know it has been a week only because one of the older men, the one who navigates by the sun and stars, has made 7 small notches on a wooden stick he keeps tucked in his belt. Without this artificial marker, you would have no way of knowing. The days have no names. There is no day of rest, no day of worship. There is only the endless cycle of watch and rest, of eating and sleeping, of staring out at the void. The rhythm of life is dictated not by the customs of man, but by the needs of the ship and the whims of the wind. The crew has settled into a deep, communal silence. It is not an awkward silence, but a shared understanding that words are useless here. There are no new stories to tell, no news to share. Every man is locked in his own private world, and the space between them is filled with a heavy, unspoken camaraderie. You can work alongside a man for hours, mending a tear in the sail or coiling a rope, without a single word passing between you. A nod of the head, a shared glance, a grunt of effort. These have replaced language as the primary means of communication. You are a brotherhood of silence, united by your shared endurance of the immense, crushing boredom. Sometimes the routine is broken by a small, almost insignificant event that, in this empty world, takes on the weight of a major occurrence. One afternoon, a piece of driftwood is spotted floating in the water. It is a small, gnarled piece of wood, no bigger than your arm, but its appearance causes a ripple of interest to pass through the ship. Men who have been sitting in silent stupor for hours rise and walk to the side of the ship to gaze at it as it floats by. They speculate on its origin. Was it once part of another ship? Did it wash out to sea from some distant, unknown land? For a few precious minutes there is something new to look at, something to think about, and the oppressive weight of the monotony is lifted ever so slightly. Then the driftwood is gone, swallowed by the waves, and the silence and the emptiness descend once more, perhaps even heavier than before for the brief moment of its interruption. The contrast between the fleeting moment of interest and the endless ocean of boredom is a cruel reminder of your situation. You find yourself scanning the waves with a renewed but hopeless intensity, searching for another piece of flotsam, another fleeting distraction. But there is nothing. Only the water, the sky, and the slow passage of time. The ship becomes your entire world, and you develop an almost symbiotic relationship with it. You learn to read its movements, to anticipate its lurches and rolls. You can walk its deck in the darkest night without stumbling, your feet knowing the placement of every rope, every barrel, every uneven plank. Your body has become attuned to its rhythm, and the constant motion is now so familiar that on the rare occasions when the sea is perfectly calm, the stillness itself feels strange and unsettling. You have become a part of the ship, another component of the living, breathing entity that is carrying you across the sea. One day the wind dies completely. The great woolen sail, which has been your engine for so long, hangs limp and useless from the mast. The ship loses its forward momentum and comes to a dead stop, sitting motionless on a sea of polished glass. The constant sound of rushing water ceases, and the silence that follows is profound and unnerving. In this absolute stillness, every small sound is magnified. The creak of a timber, the drip of water from a wet rope, the sound of your own breathing. The sun, no longer hidden by clouds, beats down with an unexpected intensity, and the deck becomes hot to the touch. The men become restless in this enforced idleness. There is nothing to be done but wait. You are completely at the mercy of the elements, a tiny, powerless speck in the vastness of the ocean. The feeling of helplessness is immense. Some men try to fish, dangling lines over the side of the ship, but the sea seems as empty of life as the sky is of wind. Others simply lie on the deck, shielding their eyes from the glare of the sun, and retreat into a state of near hibernation. The day stretches on for an eternity, a long, slow, and silent torture of waiting. As the sun begins to set, a faint breeze stirs, at first just a gentle caress on your cheek. A collective sigh of relief seems to pass through the crew. The sail begins to flutter, then to fill, and the ship slowly, gratefully, begins to move again. The sound of the water rushing past the hull returns, a welcome and familiar song. The becalmed day has been an ordeal, a break in the routine that was even more maddening than the routine itself. You have learned a hard lesson, that even the most monotonous journey is preferable to no journey at all. The nights continue to be long and cold. You have learned to find a kind of comfort in the huddle of sleeping bodies, a primal sense of security in the shared warmth. You have learned to sleep through the constant motion, your body swaying with the rhythm of the ship as if you were born to it. But the dreams of land have not ceased. They are your nightly escape, your private rebellion against the tyranny of the sea. You dream of walking in a forest, the scent of pine needles and damp earth filling your senses. You dream of the taste of fresh-baked bread, the warmth of a fire on your face, the solid, unmoving feel of a chair beneath you. You wake each morning with the ghost of these sensations lingering on your consciousness, a bittersweet reminder of the world to which you hope to one day return. A second week passes. The navigator carves another 7 notches into his stick. The pile of dried fish is noticeably smaller. The water in the barrels has taken on a distinctly bracky, unpleasant taste. The initial discomforts of the voyage have now settled into a chronic state of being. The salt sores on your hands are a constant, low-level pain. A rash has developed on your skin from the perpetually damp wool of your clothing. Your body aches with a deep, weary fatigue that no amount of sleep can fully erase. You and your shipmates are all showing the signs of the journey's toll. Your faces gaunt, your eyes listless. You have forgotten what it feels like to be truly warm, to be truly dry, to to be truly clean. The concept of comfort has become an abstraction, a memory from a distant past. Your world is one of harsh textures, of dampness, of cold, of the relentless, unchanging motion of the sea. You have adapted, you have endured, but a part of you has been worn away by the constant friction of this life. The sharp edges of your personality have been smoothed down, your spirit ground into a state of weary resignation. You are a creature of the sea now, and the sea is a harsh and unforgiving master. Then comes the fog. It rolls in silently during the night, and you wake to a world that has been erased. The sky is gone. The sea is gone. The horizon has vanished. You are suspended in a thick, white, silent void. The fog is so dense that you cannot see the bow of the ship from the stern. Your world has shrunk to a few feet of wet wooden decking. The silence is absolute, broken only by the muffled drip of condensation from the rigging. It is a world without dimension, without direction, without substance. A deep and primal fear takes hold of the crew. To be blind in the middle of the ocean is a terrifying experience. You are adrift in a featureless eternity, with no way of knowing what dangers might lie just beyond the veil of white. Is there another ship nearby? Are there rocks? You are utterly helpless, and the silence is a constant screaming reminder of your vulnerability. The men speak in hushed whispers as if afraid to disturb the great white beast that has swallowed them. The sense of isolation is more profound than it has ever been before. You are not just alone on the ocean. You are alone in the universe. The day passes in a state of suspended animation. The ship drifts slowly, blindly, through the dense white mist. There is nothing to do but wait, to pray for the fog to lift. You huddle together, finding a small measure of comfort in the physical proximity of your shipmates. You are all in this together, sharing the same fear, the same uncertainty. In this moment of shared terror, the bonds of your silent brotherhood are strengthened. You are not just a collection of individuals. You are a single organism, a single consciousness, united against the great, white, silent unknown. As evening approaches, a faint breeze begins to stir. It is a ghost of a wind, but it is enough. The fog begins to thin, to shred, to dissipate. Patches of gray water begin to appear, and then, miraculously, the horizon returns, a faint but welcome line in the distance. A collective sigh of relief, so profound it is almost a sob, passes through the crew. The world has returned. The long, terrifying day of blindness is over. You have survived. That night, as you lie on the deck, gazing up at the familiar canopy of stars, you feel a sense of profound gratitude. You are grateful for the simple fact of sight, for the ability to see the world around you. You are grateful for the wind, for the waves, for the very monotony that you had cursed just a day before. The ordeal of the fog has given you a new perspective, a deeper appreciation for the simple, predictable reality of your journey. You have learned that there are things far worse than boredom. And so the journey continues. The days blur into one another, a long and featureless chain of gray dawns and cold nights. The navigator's stick becomes covered in notches. The food supplies dwindle. Your body grows weaker, but your spirit, in a strange way, grows stronger. You have learned the art of endurance. You have learned to find a kind of peace in the emptiness. You have learned to live in the moment, for there is no past to dwell on and no future to plan for. There is only the now, this eternal, unchanging now of the sea, the sky, and the ship. You have become a master of the small. You can find a universe of interest in the way the sunlight, breaking through the clouds for a moment, illuminates the salt crystals on a piece of rope. You can spend an hour watching the way the patterns of the waves repeat and vary, finding a kind of mathematical beauty in their endless motion. You have learned to quiet your mind, to still the restless yearning for stimulation, and to simply be. You are a monk in a floating monastery, and your God is the vast, silent, and indifferent sea. This process of surrender is the key to your survival, and it is also the key to your rest. As you listen to this story of profound and endless boredom, you are giving your own mind permission to let go. You are releasing the need for constant thought, for constant activity. You are allowing yourself to drift into a state of quiet, empty, and peaceful relaxation. The long, slow, miserable journey of the Viking is becoming your own journey into the deep, still waters of sleep. There is nothing to do, nothing to think about, nothing to strive for. There is only the gentle rocking, the soft whisper of the wind, and the slow, steady drift into a state of profound and lasting peace. The third week begins, marked by another set of 7 scratches on the navigator's worn piece of wood. The number of notches seems impossibly large, a testament to a span of time that your mind struggles to comprehend. You have been in this floating world for so long that your memories of land have begun to take on the quality of dreams. You can recall the face of your wife, but it is a soft, slightly out-of-focus image. You can remember the feeling of solid ground beneath your feet, but it is a distant, half-forgotten sensation. This world of wood and water, once so alien, has become your new reality, and the world you left behind is the one that now seems strange and unreal. The degradation of your supplies is now a primary concern, a source of quiet, constant anxiety. The water in the last few barrels is not just brackish, it is slimy. A thin, green film coats the surface, and you must strain it through a piece of cloth before you drink it. The taste is foul, a mixture of salt, algae, and stale wood, but you drink it gratefully, for you know that your life depends on it. Thirst has become a constant companion, a dull ache in the back of your throat that is never fully quenched. The last of the dried fish is consumed, and you move on to the final stage of your provisions, bags of coarse, unmilled grain. To make it edible, you must grind it between 2 flat stones, a laborious and tedious task that takes hours. The resulting flour is mixed with seawater to form a thick, sticky paste, which is then cooked on a flat stone heated in a small, sand-filled firebox on the deck. The result is a dense, gritty, and intensely salty bread that scrapes your throat as you swallow it. It is barely food, but it is food nonetheless, and it keeps you alive. The physical toll of the journey is now etched onto the bodies of every man on the ship. Your skin is cracked and weathered from the constant exposure to the sun and the salt spray. Your hair is matted and stiff with salt. Your beard is long and unkempt. Your eyes are perpetually red-rimmed from the glare of the water. You are all thinner, your cheekbones more prominent, your bodies leaner and harder. You move with a slow, deliberate economy of motion, conserving your dwindling energy. You are a crew of ghosts, of scarecrows, your bodies worn down by the relentless hardship of the voyage. But even in this state of physical depletion, there is a strange clarity of mind. The constant hunger, the gnawing discomfort, the endless fatigue, they have stripped away all that is non-essential. Your thoughts are simple and direct. You think of your next watch, your next meal, your next chance to sleep. You have been reduced to the most basic elements of survival, and in this reduction there is a kind of purity, a kind of peace. The complex worries and anxieties of your life on land have been burned away by the harsh realities of the sea. The social fabric of the crew has been worn as thin as an old sail. There are no arguments, no fights. There is not enough energy for such displays. Instead, there are long, simmering resentments that can arise from the smallest of infractions. A man who chews his gritty bread too loudly. A man who takes a fraction more than his share of water. A man who snores in the huddle of sleep. These minor annoyances can fester in the silent, empty hours, growing into a silent, unspoken feud that can last for days. It is a strange, withered form of human interaction, a social life reduced to its most pathetic and basic elements. The work of maintaining the ship is the only thing that provides a structure to the day, the only thing that keeps the men from descending completely into a state of lethargic despair. It is a constant, unending battle against the slow decay that the sea inflicts upon everything it touches. The ropes, stiff with salt, must be checked constantly for signs of chafe. You run your hands along their rough surfaces, your fingers sensitive to the slightest fraying, the slightest weakness. When a weak spot is found, it must be spliced, a complex and intricate task that involves weaving the strands of the rope together to create a join that is as strong as the original. It is slow, methodical work, and you can lose yourself in it for hours, the world shrinking to the small circle of your hands and the rope they hold. Then there is the bailing. No matter how well built the ship, it is never perfectly watertight. Water always finds a way in, seeping slowly through the seams in the hull. This water collects in the bilge, the lowest part of the ship, where it mixes with dirt, spilled food, and all manner of filth to create a foul-smelling, stagnant pool. This bilge water must be bailed out, a task that is both disgusting and unending. You use a wooden scoop to ladle the stinking water into a bucket, which is then hauled up and dumped over the side. It is a rhythmic, mindless task. Scoop, lift, pour. Scoop, lift, pour. And as soon as you have finished, you can hear the slow, steady drip of water beginning to collect again. It is the ultimate act of futility, a perfect metaphor for your journey. The great woolen sail also requires constant attention. It is a heavy, unwieldy thing, made of hundreds of small squares of cloth sewn together. The constant strain of the wind and the corrosive effect of the salt spray are always working to pull it apart. Small tears appear regularly, and if they are not mended immediately, they can quickly grow into catastrophic rips. Mending the sail is a communal activity. The sail is lowered to the deck, and the men sit around the tier, their bone needles flashing in the gray light. It is slow, painstaking work, pushing the needle through the thick, greasy wool, pulling the thread tight, creating a neat row of stitches. The conversation, if it can be called that, is limited to quiet grunts and requests for more thread. But in the shared, silent task, there is a sense of purpose, a feeling of holding back the forces of chaos and entropy for one more day. One day a man spots a turtle, a large ancient creature floating serenely on the surface of the water. Its dark, patterned shell is like a small living island in the vast emptiness. It turns its head slowly, its old, reptilian eyes seeming to gaze at the ship with a look of profound indifference. It is a creature of this world, perfectly at home in the endless blue. For a long moment, the entire crew watches in silence, mesmerized by this unexpected encounter with another form of life. The turtle, its curiosity satisfied, dips its head beneath the water and disappears with a gentle flick of its flippers, leaving behind only a small ripple on the surface. The event is spoken of for days, a new and precious story to add to the meager collection of shared experiences. The navigator's stick is now completely filled with notches. He looks at it for a long time, his expression unreadable, then tucks it away in his pouch and pulls out a new one, a smooth, pale piece of ash wood. He makes the first notch in this new stick. The simple act is freighted with a terrible significance. A whole month, a whole cycle of the moon has passed, and the journey is not over. The new, clean stick is a stark symbol of the vast, unknown expanse of time that still stretches out before you. A wave of quiet despair washes over the crew. Will this journey ever end? Will you ever see land again? The questions hang in the air, unspoken but felt by all. Your inner world has become a strange and muted place. Your thoughts are no longer a constant stream of chatter, but have slowed to a crawl. They are simple, direct, and often wordless. You think in images, in feelings, in sensations. The complex machinery of your mind has been put into a state of low power, conserving its energy for the long haul. Language itself has begun to feel foreign. When you do have cause to speak, your voice sounds rusty and unfamiliar in your own ears, your tongue clumsy with the formation of words. You have spent so much time in silence that the act of speech has become a conscious effort rather than an unconscious habit. You have also developed a capacity for obsessive observation that would be considered madness on land. You can spend an entire afternoon watching a single spider that has somehow made its home in the rigging. You watch it spin its web, a miracle of engineering in this world of chaos. You watch it hunkered down when the wind blows, and you feel a strange sense of kinship with this tiny, tenacious survivor. It is your fellow traveler, your companion in this great, empty wilderness. The life and death struggles of this tiny creature become a drama of epic proportions, a welcome distraction from the vast, unchanging drama of your own survival. The memories of home, once a source of comfort, are now becoming a source of confusion. They are so vivid, so filled with color and sound and sensation, that they make your current reality seem pale and unreal. But at the same time, they are so distant, so removed from your current experience, that you begin to doubt their veracity. Was the grass in the fields behind your house truly that green? Did the bread from your wife's oven truly taste that sweet? Or have you, in your desperation, embellished these memories, transformed them into a personal mythology, a private paradise to sustain you in this watery hell? The line between memory and fantasy has begun to blur, and you are no longer sure what is real and what is simply a creation of your starved and lonely mind. There is a subtle change in the character of the sea. The water, which for weeks has been a deep, almost blackish blue-gray, has begun to take on a slightly greener tint. It is a change so subtle that only a crew that has stared at the water for a month could possibly notice it. A new type of seaweed begins to appear, a long, ribbon-like weed of a vibrant green color, floating in small, scattered clumps. The navigator, trailing a hand in the water, remarks that it feels a fraction warmer. These are all signs. They do not mean that land is near, but they mean that you have passed into a different region of the ocean, a new chapter in the great, boring book of your voyage. It is a change without any real change, a new scene that looks almost identical to the last, but it is enough to stir a faint flicker of hope in the weary hearts of the crew. But this faint hope is quickly tempered by the grim realities of your physical condition. The lack of fresh food has begun to have its inevitable effect. A deep, aching weariness has settled into your bones, a fatigue so profound that it feels as if your very marrow is tired. Your gums have begun to feel soft and spongy, and they bleed when you chew the hard, gritty bread. Your teeth feel loose in their sockets. Old scars on your body have begun to ache and turn a strange purplish color. You do not have a name for this sickness, but you know its cause. It is the seasickness, the curse of the long voyage, a slow, creeping decay that comes from a diet of salt and grain. The mental toll is just as severe. Some men have sunk into a state of deep apathy, their eyes vacant, their movements slow and listless. They perform their duties mechanically, without thought or care, and when they are at rest, they simply sit and stare, their minds seemingly empty. Others have become consumed by a quiet, simmering irritability. They take offense at the slightest thing, their tempers as frayed as an old rope, a misplaced tool, an accidental jostle, a perceived slight. These can trigger a silent, brooding anger that can last for days. The ship has become a floating asylum, its crew of ghosts haunted by the twin demons of physical decay and mental exhaustion. And yet you endure. You do not know how, but you do. Each morning you force yourself to rise. You chew your foul-tasting bread. You perform your tedious tasks. You stand your watch and stare out at the empty horizon. There is a core of resilience deep within you, a stubborn animal instinct for survival that refuses to be extinguished. You have been stripped of everything, of comfort, of pleasure, of hope, of your very sense of self, but you are still alive. And as long as you are alive, you will continue to endure. This story of endurance, this tale of the slow, grinding misery of the long voyage, is a lullaby for the restless mind. It is a story that tells you that it is okay to let go, to surrender, to simply be. It is a story that mirrors the process of falling asleep, the slow letting go of the busy world, a gradual descent into a state of quiet, empty peace. As you listen to the tale of these weary sailors, you are giving yourself permission to join them in their state of weary resignation. You are allowing the monotonous rhythm of their journey to become the monotonous rhythm of your own breath, the gentle rocking of their ship to become the gentle rocking of your own body as it drifts into a deep and profound sleep. There is nothing to fight, nothing to resist. There is only the long, slow, gentle surrender to the inevitable. Sleep is coming, as surely and as slowly as land will one day come for these weary men of the sea. The moon has waxed and waned once more, and the navigator has carved the final notch in his second stick of wood. 2 months. The knowledge settles upon the crew, not with a crash, but as a soft, suffocating blanket of dust. 2 months of this gray, featureless existence. The concept is too vast to hold in the mind. It is an eternity. The new stick, the third one, is brought out, and the first notch is made. It is a moment of profound, silent despair. The journey has no conceivable end. You are simply adrift in a timeless, spaceless void, and your only purpose is to mark the passage of time with these small, meaningless scratches on a piece of wood. The ship itself seems to groan under the weight of this endless journey. The wood, perpetually soaked in salt water, is soft and spongy in places. A fine green moss has begun to grow on the shaded parts of the hull. The sail, patched and repatched so many times that it is now a crazy quilt of different colored threads, looks tattered and weary. The ship is slowly dissolving, returning to the elements from which it was made. You and the ship are one, and you are both being worn away by the relentless, grinding power of the sea. The conversations, which had long ago dwindled to near nothingness, have now ceased entirely. The silence is absolute. It is a heavy, viscous thing that fills the spaces between the men, a silence that is more than just the absence of sound. It is a silence of the spirit, a silence of the soul. You have forgotten how to speak, how to share your thoughts and feelings with others. You are an island, a self-contained world of sensation and memory, and your shipmates are other islands, floating in the same silent sea. You can see them, you can work alongside them, but you can no longer connect with them. The lines of communication have been severed, not by anger or disagreement, but by the slow, corrosive acid of utter monotony. Your only companion in this silent world is the pain in your own body. It is a constant, low-level thrum that underlies every moment of your waking life. Your joints ache with a deep, grinding pain. Your muscles are weak and tremulous. Your mouth is a cavern of soreness, your gums bleeding at the slightest touch. You move with the slow, careful deliberation of a very old man, every movement a conscious effort to conserve energy and to minimize pain. You are a walking ruin, a testament to the destructive power of a diet devoid of life. One man, a young boy on his first voyage, succumbs to the sickness. He does not die in a dramatic fashion. There is no fever, no struggle. He simply fades away. He grows weaker and weaker, until one day he no longer has the strength to rise from his sleeping place. He lies on the deck, his eyes open but unseeing, his breathing shallow and faint. The other men watch him, their faces impassive. There is nothing they can do. They have no medicine, no special food to give him. They can only watch as the life slowly, gently ebbs out of him. When he is gone, they wrap his body in his woolen blanket and weight it with a few stones from the ballast. The navigator says a few quiet words, a simple prayer to the old gods for safe passage to the next world. Then, with a gentle push, they slide the body over the side of the ship. It enters the water with a soft splash and disappears instantly into the green depths. There is no ceremony, no weeping. There is only a quiet, stoic acceptance of the inevitable. The sea has taken its due. The crew is one man smaller. The ship sails on. The death of the boy casts a long shadow over the crew. It is a stark and brutal reminder of their own mortality. They are all dying, some more slowly than others, but they are all caught in the same slow, inexorable slide towards the end. The faint flicker of hope that had been kindled by the changing color of the sea is extinguished. There is only the grim reality of their situation. They are dying men on a dying ship in the middle of a dead sea. And yet, even in this abyss of despair, the instinct for survival remains. You continue to grind the grain, to bake the salty bread, to mend the sail, to bail the stinking water from the bilge. You do these things not out of hope, but out of habit. Your body is a machine that has been programmed to survive, and it will continue to perform its functions until it can no longer do so. You are a ghost, a phantom, an automaton, going through the motions of life long after the spirit has fled. And in this state of pure mechanical endurance, you find a strange kind of peace. You have let go of everything. You have let go of hope. You have let go of fear. You have let go of your past and your future. You exist only in this present moment, this eternal now of scoop, lift, pour, of push, pull, stitch, of grind, mix, bake. Your mind is empty, your heart is still. You have reached the very bottom of existence, and you have found that it is a place of profound and utter calm. This empty calm, this hollow peace, becomes the new foundation of your existence. It is a state beyond despair, a quiet acceptance of the void. The days continue to turn, one after another, each a perfect replica of the last. You work, you eat your gritty bread, you drink your foul water, you sleep your shallow, dream-haunted sleep. The machine of your body continues to function, but the person who once inhabited it is gone, replaced by this quiet, observing presence. You watch your own hands as they mend a rope, and they seem to be the hands of a stranger. You feel the ache in your joints, but it is a distant, impersonal sensation. You have become a spectator to your own slow decay. The silence on the ship has changed. It is no longer the silence of shared boredom or simmering resentment. It is the silence of a graveyard. The men avoid each other's eyes, not out of anger, but because they cannot bear to see their own slow, wasting death reflected in the faces of their comrades. In the hollow cheeks and vacant eyes of the man next to you, you see your own future. The ship is a floating tomb, populated by men who are already dead, but have not yet had the decency to lie down. The small, pathetic bundle of the dead boy's belongings still lies where he left it, a silent, accusing monument that no one dares to touch. It is a constant reminder of the thinness of the veil that separates their state from his. Your mind, starved of sensory input and proper nourishment, begins to play tricks on you. In the endless sighing of the wind through the rigging, you begin to hear other sounds. Faint, fleeting snatches of music, the distant barking of a dog, a woman's soft laughter. For a moment your heart leaps with a sudden, painful hope. You turn your head, straining to hear, but there is nothing. There is only the wind and the sea. The disappointment is a physical blow, a fresh wound in your already battered spirit. You learn to distrust your own ears, to treat these auditory ghosts as the cruel tricks of a dying brain. Your eyes, too, become unreliable. In the deep twilight, when the world is a wash of gray and shadow, the waves can take on monstrous forms. You see great, coiling serpents rising from the depths, their scales shimmering in the fading light. You see the faces of forgotten gods in the swirling patterns of the water. In the corner of your vision, you catch fleeting glimpses of dark shapes that vanish when you turn to look at them. You do not know if these are real sea monsters or simply phantoms created by your exhausted mind. In the end, it does not matter. The world has become a dreamlike, hallucinatory place, and the line between the real and the unreal has been completely erased. The only reliable spectacle, the only source of true and unambiguous beauty, is the night sky. On clear nights, when the clouds have been swept away by the wind, the heavens are a breathtaking display of cold, distant fire. The stars are so numerous, so brilliant, that they seem to be a solid, glittering canopy above you. You see the faint, milky ribbon of the gods' road stretching from horizon to horizon. You watch as shooting stars streak across the blackness, silent, fleeting messengers from another realm. You lie on your back on the hard deck, your body aching, your stomach gnawing with hunger, and you lose yourself in the vast, silent majesty of the cosmos. It is a beauty so immense, so impersonal, that it offers no comfort, only a profound sense of your own insignificance. One night, a new and terrifyingly beautiful phenomenon appears in the northern sky. Great, silent curtains of shimmering light begin to unfold, as if a giant unseen hand were shaking out a bolt of celestial silk. They are a pale, ghostly green, with fringes of pink and violet. They ripple and dance, they swell and fade, they move with a slow, sinuous grace that is utterly mesmerizing. The crew stands in stunned silence, their faces upturned, bathed in the eerie, ethereal glow. It is the dance of the spirits, a message from the gods. But what does it mean? Is it a promise of hope, or a portent of doom? You are too weary, too empty, to even guess. You can only watch in a state of hollow, detached awe as the heavens perform their silent, incomprehensible ballet. The ship itself seems to be breathing this atmosphere of decay. The clean, sharp smells of tar and salt have been replaced by a more complex and unsettling bouquet. There is the sour, pungent smell of the stagnant bilge water, a smell that seems to permeate the very wood of the ship. There is the faint, sweetish odor of rot from the food that has gone bad, from the wood that is slowly turning to pulp. And underneath it all, there is the smell of sickness, the faint, metallic scent of the slow decay of human flesh. The ship is no longer a proud vessel of exploration and conquest. It is a floating charnel house, a coffin carrying its own gravediggers to a watery grave. Then one day something changes. It is a change so subtle that at first you are not even sure if it is real. The wind, which for weeks has blown steadily from the west, begins to shift. It swings around to the south, and it carries with it a new quality. It is a warmer wind, a softer wind, and it carries a new scent. It is not the clean, sharp smell of land, the scent of pine and damp earth that you remember from your long-lost home. It is a different smell, a faint, loamy, vegetal scent, a smell of wet leaves and rich, dark soil, and a profusion of strange, unknown flowers. It is the smell of a world that is teeming with life. The crew, who have been sunk in a state of near catatonic apathy, begin to stir. They lift their heads, they sniff the air, their nostrils flaring like those of tired old horses. A low murmur passes through the ship, the first sound of communal human speech that has been heard in weeks. What is it? What is that smell? Is it real? Or is it another trick of their starved and desperate minds? They do not dare to hope, but the seed of a new and tentative possibility has been planted in the barren soil of their souls. The next day the proof arrives. It comes in the form of a bird. It is not a seabird, a gull, or a tern, a creature of the open ocean. It is a small land bird, a finch perhaps, with a brown-striped body and a cheerful, conical beak. It must have been blown far out to sea by a storm, and it is utterly exhausted. It flutters weakly towards the ship, its tiny wings beating with a desperate, frantic energy. It circles the mast once, as if unable to believe what it is seeing, and then it lands on one of the oars, its tiny feet gripping the wood, its body trembling with fatigue. The men gather around, moving with a slow, quiet reverence. They are careful not to startle the tiny creature. It is a messenger, a herald, a living, breathing symbol of the world they had given up all hope of ever seeing again. It is a miracle. The bird, for its part, seems to have exhausted all its fear. It sits on the oar, its head cocked, its bright, black eyes gazing at the gaunt, bearded giants who surround it. One of the men, the one who had been a farmer, crumbles a few precious crumbs of his gritty, salty bread and places them on the deck near the oar. The bird looks at the crumbs, then at the man, and then, with a delicate hop, it flutters down to the deck and begins to eat. A collective sigh, a sound of pure, unadulterated relief, passes through the crew. It is real. The bird is real. The smell is real. The hope is real. It is a fragile, tentative hope, a hope that is afraid to speak its own name, but it is hope nonetheless. It is a tiny, warm spark in the cold, dead ashes of their despair. For the first time in months, the men look at each other, and they see not the reflection of their own death, but the shared, miraculous possibility of life. The little bird stays with the ship for the rest of the day, a welcome and honored passenger. It flits from the mast to the rigging to the rowing benches, its cheerful chirps a sound of impossible, otherworldly beauty in the long silent world of the ship. It drinks a few drops of the foul water that are offered to it in a clamshell. It eats the crumbs of bread as if they were the finest delicacy. It is a small, fragile creature, but it has brought with it a gift of immeasurable value, the promise of a future. As the sun begins to set, the bird seems to be seized by a renewed sense of purpose. It flutters to the prow of the ship, to the fearsome, carved dragon head, and it perches there for a moment, looking out towards the south, towards the source of the warm, life-giving wind. Then, with a final, cheerful chirp, it launches itself into the air and flies away, a small, dark speck against the orange and purple of the sunset. It does not look back. It knows where it is going. It is going home. The men watch it until it is gone, their hearts filled with a strange mixture of joy and sorrow. They are joyous, for the bird has shown them that there is a home to be found. They are sorrowful, for they know that they are not yet there. But the journey is no longer an endless, meaningless drift in a featureless void. It has a direction. It has a destination. It has a purpose. The long, slow, and miserable voyage of the damned has become a pilgrimage, a slow and painful journey towards the promised land. This story of the slow dawning of hope is a story for the part of you that is ready to greet the morning. But the morning is not yet here. The night is still deep, and the journey is not yet over. So let us return to the gentle, monotonous rhythm of the sea, to the soft, whispering lullaby of the wind. Let the fragile, new-found hope of the crew be a distant, gentle light, a star to guide you not towards wakefulness, but towards the deepest, most peaceful, and most restorative sleep. The end of the journey is in sight, but there are still many miles to travel, many long, slow, quiet hours to pass, and it is in these quiet hours that you will find your deepest rest. The days that follow the departure of the bird are different. The change is subtle but profound. The silence is still there, but it is no longer the heavy, oppressive silence of despair. It is a silence of anticipation, a quiet, patient waiting. The men still perform their tedious tasks, but they do so with a new lightness in their movements. There is a sense of purpose in their actions, a knowledge that their work is no longer just a futile battle against decay, but a necessary preparation for their arrival in a new world. The warm, earthy smell from the south grows stronger with each passing day. It is a complex and intoxicating perfume, a mixture of 1,000 different scents that you have no names for. It is the smell of life, of growth, of fecundity. It is the polar opposite of the clean, sterile, and lifeless smell of the open ocean. You find yourself taking deep breaths of it, as if you could drink it in, as if it were a kind of nourishment for your starved and weary soul. Other signs of life begin to appear. You see schools of small, silvery fish, their bodies flashing in the sunlight as they leap from the water. You see a different kind of seabird, a large, graceful creature with long wings that soars effortlessly on the wind. You see a floating log, not a small piece of driftwood, but a massive tree trunk, its roots trailing in the water like the tentacles of a great sea monster. It is covered in barnacles and seaweed, and a small crab scuttles across its surface. It is a piece of a forest, a fragment of a world that you are slowly but surely approaching. The color of the water continues to change. It is no longer the deep, clear green of the open sea, but a murky, brownish green, a color that speaks of silt and sediment, of rivers flowing into the ocean, of land. You are entering the coastal waters of an unknown continent, and every sign of this new reality is a source of quiet, profound joy. Even the sickness that has been ravaging the crew seems to have been put on hold. The aching in your joints has eased. The bleeding from your gums has lessened. A small measure of strength has returned to your limbs. It may be the hope itself that is healing you, the powerful medicine of a future to believe in. Or it may be something in the air, some new quality of life that is infusing your weary body with a renewed vitality. Whatever the cause, you are grateful. You are still weak, you are still scarred, but you are no longer dying. One morning, you wake to a new sound. It is a low, rhythmic booming, a sound so deep that you feel it in your chest as much as you hear it with your ears. It is the sound of the sea crashing against the shore. You scramble to the side of the ship, your heart pounding with a fierce, wild excitement. And there, through the morning mist, you see it. It is a dark, jagged line on the horizon, a line that is not flat and perfect like the horizon of the open sea, but is uneven, textured, solid. It is land. A great, ragged cheer erupts from the crew, a sound of pure, unadulterated joy. It is a strange, rusty, and unfamiliar sound, the sound of men who have forgotten how to use their voices. They clap each other on the back. They embrace. They weep openly, the tears carving clean paths through the grime on their faces. They have made it. They have crossed the great, empty ocean. They have survived the long, boring, and miserable voyage. They are alive. As the raw, unfamiliar sound of their own collective voice fades, a new kind of energy takes hold of the crew. It is not the frenetic, wild energy of a battle charge, but a focused, purposeful hum of activity. The initial, explosive joy of sighting land quickly transforms into the quiet, intense concentration of men who know their ordeal is not quite over. The sea has one last test for them, a safe and successful landing on this unknown shore. The helmsman, his eyes clear and sharp for the first time in months, grips the tiller with a renewed sense of authority. The long, miserable drift is over. Now they are sailing with a purpose. The ship moves slowly, cautiously, parallel to the coastline, which gradually resolves itself from a hazy, dark line into a landscape of breathtaking and overwhelming detail. After the endless two-dimensional world of gray sea and gray sky, the sheer three-dimensionality of the land is a shock to the system. You see towering cliffs of a dark volcanic rock streaked with veins of white and red. You see dense, impenetrable forests of a green so vibrant, so intense, that it almost hurts your salt-strafed eyes. You see gentle, sloping hillsides covered in a thick carpet of what looks like moss or grass, and pristine, white sand beaches nestled in sheltered coves. The world has exploded into a riot of color and texture, and your starved mind struggles to process the sheer volume of new information. The sounds of this new world are just as overwhelming. The deep, rhythmic boom of the surf is now overlaid with a symphony of other noises. There is the high, piercing cry of unfamiliar birds that wheel and dive from the cliff tops. There is the soft, sibilant rustle of wind moving through the leaves of a million trees, a sound so different from the lonely whistle of wind in the rigging. There is the gentle, musical trickle of water as small waterfalls cascade down the rock faces. You have been living in a world of 2 or 3 simple sounds for so long that this complex and vibrant soundscape is almost deafening. A beautiful and bewildering concert performed by nature itself. The air, too, is thick with new smells, the general loamy scent of life that you have been smelling for days has now differentiated itself into 100 distinct fragrances. There is the sharp, clean scent of pine, the rich, damp smell of rotting leaves, the sweet, heady perfume of unseen flowers, the earthy aroma of wet soil. You breathe it in deeply, and it is like drinking a powerful, intoxicating wine. It is the smell of home, not your specific home, but the generic home of all land-based creatures. It is the smell of safety, of nourishment, of life. The crew works with a quiet efficiency, their movements economical and precise. They are weak, but their task gives them a new source of strength. They take to the oars, not to propel the ship forward, but to maneuver it with care, to keep it from being dashed against the rocks by the powerful surge of the surf. One man stands at the bow, holding a long, weighted rope. He throws it into the water, lets it sink, and then hauls it up, calling out the depth in a low, steady voice. They are mapping the seabed, searching for a channel, a path through the hidden dangers that guard this new continent. For hours they move along the coast, their eyes scanning every cove, every inlet, for a suitable place to land. They are looking for a specific combination of features, a sheltered bay, protected from the full force of the open ocean, a gently sloping beach where they can bring the ship ashore without damaging its hull, and most importantly, a source of fresh water, a stream or river flowing into the sea. They pass by many beautiful and tempting spots that do not meet these strict criteria, their discipline overriding their desperate desire to feel solid ground beneath their feet. Finally, they find it. It is a perfect crescent-shaped cove, flanked on either side by high, rocky headlands that blunt the power of the waves. A wide, sandy beach arcs around the bay, its sand a pale, golden color. And in the middle of the beach, a small, clear stream meanders down from the forested hills behind, cutting a dark, wet path through the sand before disappearing into the turquoise water of the cove. It is a haven, a sanctuary, a place of perfect and absolute welcome. With a final, concerted effort, the men row the ship towards the beach. They time their strokes with the rhythm of the swell, using the power of the waves to help them. There is a final, gentle surge, and then a low, grating, crunching sound as the keel of the longship slides onto the sand. The sound is music to your ears. It is the sound of the end of the journey. And then there is a new sensation, one so strange and profound that it takes your breath away: stillness. Absolute, perfect stillness. The constant, relentless, wearying motion that has been the background of your existence for months has ceased. The ship is still. The world is still. And in this stillness you feel a sense of peace so deep, so profound, that it is almost overwhelming. For a long moment no one moves. They simply sit, savoring the incredible, unbelievable luxury of not being in motion. They look at each other, their faces filled with a mixture of awe, disbelief, and a weariness so profound it is almost sacred. Then one man, the oldest and most experienced of the crew, slowly, carefully stands up. He swings his legs over the side of the ship, and his feet sink into the wet sand. He stands there for a moment, his body swaying slightly as it tries to adjust to this new, solid reality. Then he takes a step, and then another. He is the first to walk on this new world. One by one, the other men follow his example. They stumble out of the ship like newborn fawns, their legs weak and unreliable after so many months of disuse. Your own feet touch the ground, and the sensation is electrifying. The ground is solid, it is stable, it does not move. You feel the soft, wet sand yielding beneath your weight, the cool water of the surf washing over your ankles. You take a tentative step, and then another, and a wave of dizziness washes over you as your inner ear struggles to recalibrate. You have forgotten how to walk on land, but the body remembers. Slowly, awkwardly, the men make their way up the beach, their movements clumsy and uncoordinated. They look like a procession of drunkards, of invalids, but they are not drunk on ale. They are drunk on the simple, miraculous fact of being on land. Their first unanimous destination is the stream. They fall to their knees on its banks, and they plunge their faces into the cool, clear water. They drink, and they drink, and they drink. The water is sweet, it is clean, it is free of the foul taste of salt and algae and rot. It is the elixir of life, and they drink it with a desperate, primal thirst that seems to have no end. When they have finally drunk their fill, they simply lie on the banks of the stream, their bodies half in the water, half on the land, and they let the cool, life-giving liquid wash over them. They splash it on their faces. They run it through their matted hair. They wash the months of grime and salt and sickness from their skin. It is a baptism, a purification, a ritual cleansing that washes away not just the filth of the journey, but its memory as well. As the day wears on, a small measure of strength returns to their limbs. They begin to explore their new home, but they do not venture far. They are like children in a new and wonderful garden. They touch the leaves of the plants, marveling at their different shapes and textures. They lie on their backs on a patch of soft, green moss, and they feel its cool, damp sponginess against their skin. They watch with fascination as a column of ants march purposefully across a fallen log. Every tiny detail of this world is a source of wonder, a miracle to be savored. As evening approaches, they gather on the beach and build a fire. It is the first proper fire they have had in months. Not the small, smoky, and dangerous fire in the ship's firebox, but a large, roaring, joyous bonfire. The flames leap and dance, casting a warm, golden glow on the faces of the men who huddle around it. The fire is a symbol of home, of community, of civilization. It is a declaration that they are no longer lost and adrift, but have found a place to belong. For their first meal on land, they feast like kings. A few men have managed to catch some small, silvery fish in the stream, which they roast on sticks over the fire. Others have found a patch of wild berries, small, dark, and intensely sweet. Someone else has discovered a bed of mussels clinging to the rocks at the edge of the cove. They pry them open and cook them in their shells on the hot embers of the fire. The food is simple, but to these men it is the most delicious feast they have ever tasted. The explosion of fresh, real flavor in their mouths is a revelation, a joyous and welcome assault on their long-deprived senses. As the stars begin to appear in the sky, a deep and profound weariness settles over the crew. It is not the nervous, anxious fatigue of the voyage, but a deep, satisfying, and peaceful exhaustion. They do not bother to build shelters. They simply find a spot on the soft sand, a safe distance from the fire, and they lie down. You find your own spot, and you curl up on the ground, your body aching with the unfamiliar exertions of the day. You pull your old, familiar woolen blanket over you, and you close your eyes. The world you are now in is profoundly different from the one you have left behind. The ground beneath you is absolutely, completely still. There is no rocking, no swaying, no lurching. The cessation of movement is the greatest luxury you can imagine. The sounds are different, too. Instead of the creak of the mast and the rush of the water, you hear the gentle crackle of the fire, the soft murmur of the stream, the rhythmic sigh of the surf on the beach, and the quiet, peaceful symphony of the forest at night. It is a new lullaby, an earthly lullaby, and it is the most beautiful sound you have ever heard. You drift into sleep almost instantly, without thought, without effort. It is not the shallow, fitful sleep of the ship, but a deep, heavy, and profound slumber. You fall like a stone through the dark, silent waters of consciousness, down, 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 down into a place of absolute peace and quiet. There are no dreams, no nightmares, no ghosts of the past or anxieties for the future. There is only the deep, dark, and dreamless sleep of the utterly exhausted and the truly safe. Your body, finally at rest, finally nourished, finally safe, begins the long, slow, and miraculous work of healing itself. You are home. You are at peace. And you are asleep. The first night on land is a journey into a new kind of oblivion. It is a sleep so deep it is almost a return to the womb, a state of non-being where the weary consciousness can finally dissolve and let go of its long and burdensome watch. The symphony of the land, the crackle of the fire, the whisper of the stream, the sigh of the surf is not a distraction, but a grounding presence, an auditory blanket that confirms the reality of your safety. Your body, which for months has been in a constant state of tension, racing against the next lurch of the ship, finally, completely relaxes. You feel your muscles uncoil, your limbs grow heavy, your very bones seem to sink into the soft, welcoming embrace of the earth. This is a healing sleep. In this profound state of rest, the miracles of regeneration are taking place. The microscopic tears in your muscles are being repaired. The frayed endings of your nerves are being soothed. The vital organs, long starved of proper nutrients, are beginning the slow process of rebuilding themselves. The salt is being leached from your system. The inflammation is subsiding. The deep, aching pain in your joints is beginning to recede. You are not aware of any of this. You are simply asleep, but the innate ancient wisdom of your body is at work, restoring you, renewing you, making you whole again. Hours pass. The fire burns down to a bed of glowing embers. The moon traces its silent arc across the sky. The tide ebbs and flows on the beach. And still, you do not stir. You are lost to the world, adrift in the deep, calm ocean of restorative sleep. If you are dreaming, you do not remember it. Your mind, as exhausted as your body, has also entered a state of profound rest. It is no longer replaying the horrors of the voyage, no longer tormented by memories of home. It is quiet. It is still. It is at peace. This first sleep on land is the true end of the voyage. The journey is not complete when the ship touches the shore, but when the sailor finally finds true and absolute rest. It is the moment when the long accumulated debt of fatigue and fear is finally paid off. It is the moment when the soul, as well as the body, comes home. And as you listen to this story, as you imagine this profound and healing sleep, you are invited to share in it. You are invited to let go of your own long journey of the day, to release your own tensions and anxieties, and to sink into your own deep, restorative, and peaceful sleep. The shore has been reached. The fire is warm. The ground is still. All is well. Sleep now. Sleep deeply. The first light of dawn filters through the dense canopy of the forest, dappling the forest floor with shifting patches of soft gray light. You awaken not with a sudden start, but with a slow, gentle drift from the depths of your profound slumber. For a fleeting, disoriented moment, your sleeping mind expects the familiar lurch and sway of the ship, the groan of the mast, the rush of water. The absolute stillness of the world is so alien that your brain, for a split second, registers it as something wrong. Then the new symphony of sounds slowly penetrates your consciousness. The persistent, gentle murmur of the stream, the distant cry of a strange bird, the soft sigh of the wind in the leaves. You open your eyes, and the first thing you see is not a gray woolen blanket a few inches from your face, but a dizzying, intricate web of green leaves against a pale morning sky. The smell of damp earth and decaying leaves fills your nostrils, a rich and complex perfume of life. You push yourself up onto your elbows, your movements slow and stiff, and you look around. You see the other men scattered around the ashes of the fire, still lost in that same deep, healing sleep. You see the longship, a dark and silent silhouette against the bright water of the cove, and you feel the solid, unyielding earth beneath you. It is all real. You have survived. A profound sense of peace, deeper and more complete than any you have ever known, settles over you. The gnawing anxiety, the constant, low-level fear that has been your companion for months is gone. It has not just faded. It has been completely extinguished, washed away by the deep, restorative sleep of the land. You feel your body, and you notice that while the deep ache in your bones is still present, it has become a dull, distant echo of what it was before. A measure of strength has returned to your limbs. You feel not just rested, but reborn. Slowly, as the sun rises higher, the other men begin to wake. They all experience the same moment of disorientation, the same slow, dawning realization, the same look of profound and quiet gratitude. There are no loud cheers this morning, no joyous celebrations. The mood is one of quiet, reverent awe. They have been to the land of the dead, and they have returned. They are too full of this quiet miracle to waste it on loud noises. They simply sit, watching the morning unfold, listening to the sounds of this new world, and feeling the profound, unbelievable joy of being still. The first days on the land are not filled with frantic activity. There is no rush to build a settlement, no hurry to explore the deep forest. The primary activities are the simple, essential tasks of healing and recovery. The men move with a slow, deliberate grace, conserving their still meager energy. Much of the day is spent simply resting, sitting by the fire, or lying in a patch of sun, allowing the warmth to seep into their bones. They are like plants that have been kept in a dark cellar for too long, and now they are turning their faces to the sun, soaking in its life-giving energy. The search for food is a slow and meditative activity. You walk along the beach as the tide recedes, your eyes scanning the tidal pools for the dark shells of mussels and clams. You find a patch of seaweed, a vibrant, translucent green, and you chew on its salty, succulent fronds. You wade into the cool, clear water of the stream and watch as small, trout-like fish dart in the current. You learn to spear them with a sharpened stick, a skill that requires immense patience and a steady hand. Every small success, every morsel of fresh food is a victory, a gift from this bountiful new world. You venture a little way into the forest, and you discover a world of bewildering variety. You find trees with strange, edible nuts that you crack open with a stone. You find bushes laden with berries of a deep, luscious purple. You learn through cautious trial and error which plants are good to eat and which are to be avoided. You dig in the soft, rich earth and find starchy, potato-like roots. Your diet, which for months has been a monotonous rotation of salt and grit, has exploded into a symphony of new tastes and textures. Each meal is a joyous adventure, a rediscovery of the simple, profound pleasure of eating. The water of the stream is a constant source of life and delight. You drink it whenever you are thirsty, reveling in its clean, sweet taste. You bathe in it, washing away the last vestiges of the long voyage, feeling the cool water on your skin as a kind of blessing. You watch the way the light plays on its surface, the way it tumbles over the smooth, gray stones. The stream is the heart of your new home, the source of your healing, the symbol of your renewal. One afternoon, a gentle rain begins to fall. On the ship, rain was a misery, a cold, penetrating dampness that soaked you to the bone and made you shiver for hours. Here, it is a miracle. It is a soft, gentle shower that whispers on the leaves of the trees and creates a fine silver mist in the air. The smell of the rain on the warm earth is intoxicating, a clean, fresh, and deeply nostalgic scent. You stand in the open, your face upturned to the sky, and you let the raindrops wash over you. It is not cold, but refreshing, a gentle caress from the heavens. You are no longer fighting against the elements. You are a part of them. Slowly, hesitantly, the individual personalities of the men, which had been erased by the shared trauma of the voyage, begin to re-emerge. One man who had been a farmer spends his days examining the soil, crumbling it between his fingers, his face a mask of intense concentration. Another, a man who was known for his skill as a wood carver, finds a piece of smooth, pale driftwood and, using the sharp knife he has so carefully maintained, begins to whittle. He carves the shape of a bird, its wings outstretched in flight, a small, perfect monument to the creature that led them here. And then, one evening, as the men are sitting around the fire, someone tells a joke. It is a simple, stupid joke, the kind of joke that would barely raise a smile in a normal setting. But here, in this community of silent, haunted men, it is a revolutionary act. A moment of silence follows the telling of the joke, and then a single man lets out a short, rusty bark of a laugh. Another man joins in, and then another, and soon the whole cove is filled with the strange, unfamiliar, and beautiful sound of men laughing. It is a ragged, broken sound, the sound of machinery that has not been used in a long time, but it is a sound of pure, unadulterated joy. The spell of silence has been broken. The longship sits on the beach, a silent and patient beast. It is a constant reminder of what you have endured, a monument to the long, boring misery of your voyage. You unload the last of its meager supplies, the few remaining bags of grain, the empty water barrels, the spare coils of rope. You clean it out, removing the filth and the stench of the journey. But you do not linger in it. It is a place of ghosts, a place of pain. Its purpose is served. You find yourself looking out at the sea, but you do it from the safety of the shore. The ocean no longer holds any terror for you. It is no longer your prison, your tormentor. It is simply a part of the landscape, a vast and beautiful expanse of blue and green that stretches out to the horizon. You can admire its power, its majesty, its ever-changing moods, but you are no longer at its mercy. You have escaped its grasp. You are a creature of the land again. The days blend into one another, but it is not the featureless, monotonous blending of the voyage. It is a gentle, peaceful rhythm of waking, eating, resting, and sleeping. It is the rhythm of healing, the rhythm of recovery. Your body grows stronger each day. The gaunt, skeletal look of the crew is replaced by a lean and healthy vigor. The sores on your skin heal, the color returns to your faces, the light returns to your eyes. You are no longer ghosts, but men. In this slow, quiet, and uneventful process of recovery, you find a new and deeper kind of peace. You have learned a profound lesson from your long ordeal, that the greatest treasures in life are the simplest ones. A drink of clean water, a meal of fresh food, a night of deep, untroubled sleep, the feeling of solid ground beneath your feet, the warmth of a fire, the company of friends. These are the things that matter. These are the things that make life worth living. And as you settle into this new, simple, and peaceful existence, you are invited to settle into your own state of deep and peaceful rest. The story of the voyage is over. The story of the recovery is nearing its end. The time for adventure and for hardship has passed. Now is the time for rest. Now is the time for peace. Let the gentle, healing rhythm of life on this new land be the rhythm that guides you into your own deep, healing, and restorative sleep. There is nothing to do, nothing to fear. You are safe. You are home. You are at peace. Your mind, like the bodies of the sailors, begins to knit itself back together. The fragmented, hallucinatory state induced by the long trauma gives way to a more coherent and peaceful consciousness. You find yourself able to think in complete sentences again, to follow a train of thought from beginning to end. But you find that you have less desire for complex thought. Your mind has become accustomed to the quiet, and it is reluctant to return to its old, busy ways. You find a new pleasure in simply observing and being present in the moment. without the constant need to analyze, to judge, to plan. You spend long hours simply sitting on the beach, watching the waves. They are the same waves that you watched for months from the deck of the ship, but your relationship with them has changed. You are no longer their prisoner, but their neighbor. You watch them with a kind of detached, friendly affection. You admire the way they build themselves up into a towering, translucent wall of green, the way their crests crumble into a riot of white foam, the way they hiss and sigh as they spread themselves thin upon the sand. They are a source of endless, gentle fascination, a living, breathing sculpture that is constantly changing, yet always the same. The return of memory is a slow and gentle process. At first, you are reluctant to revisit the voyage in your mind. It is a dark and painful place, but as you grow stronger, as you feel more secure in your new reality, you find that you can look back on it without the same overwhelming sense of dread. You begin to remember not just the misery, but the strange, stark beauty of the open ocean. You remember the breathtaking spectacle of the stars, the eerie dance of the northern lights, the profound and absolute silence of a becalmed sea. You begin to understand that even in the heart of the most profound boredom and misery, there were moments of grace, of wonder, of a terrible and lonely beauty. You also begin to speak of it. At first, the words come with difficulty. The men are reluctant to revisit the trauma. But one evening, around the fire, one of the older men begins to tell a story. He speaks of the fog, of the terrifying, disorienting blindness, of the profound relief when it finally lifted. Another man tells of the day he saw the turtle, of its ancient, indifferent eyes. You find yourself telling the story of the little bird, of its fragile, desperate courage. These are not stories of glorious battles or heroic deeds. They are small, quiet stories of endurance, of observation, of the tiny, fleeting moments of grace that sustained you in the darkness. In sharing these stories, you are transforming your individual traumas into a shared history, a collective epic of survival. You are taking the meaningless suffering of the voyage and giving it meaning, turning it into the foundation myth of your new community. The ship, your former prison, becomes a source of valuable resources. With great effort, you drag it further up the beach, securing it against the highest tides. You begin this slow process of dismantling it. The mast becomes the central pillar of a communal longhouse. The planks of the hull become the walls of smaller dwellings. The wool of the sail is cut up and used for blankets and clothing. The iron rivets are carefully extracted and repurposed as nails and tools. The ship that carried you through the misery is now giving you the means to build a new life. It is the final act of a long and difficult relationship, a transformation of a symbol of suffering into a source of shelter and security. You have been remade by your journey. You are not the same man who left the shores of your homeland so many months ago. You are quieter, you are more patient, you are more observant. You have been stripped of your pride, of your ambition, of your illusions. You have looked into the abyss, and you have survived. You carry the memory of the great empty sea within you, and it has given you a profound and unshakable sense of perspective. The small irritations and anxieties of daily life no longer have the power to disturb you. You have endured the ultimate boredom, the ultimate misery, and you have discovered a deep and abiding peace on the other side. And this peace is the final, unexpected gift of your long and terrible voyage. A season turns. The vibrant, almost violent green of their first arrival slowly mellows. replaced by the soft, warm tones of autumn. The leaves on the strange, new trees turn shades of gold, amber, and a deep wine red. The air grows cooler, crisper, carrying the clean, sharp scent of wood smoke and the faint, sweet smell of decaying leaves. The frantic, desperate energy of survival has long since faded, replaced by the calm, steady rhythm of a settled life. The camp has become a homestead, a small, quiet village nestled in the protective embrace of the cove. The daily life of the community is one of profound and peaceful monotony. It is a boredom born not of emptiness and despair, but of contentment and security. The days are structured around simple, life-affirming tasks. In the morning, the men go out to check the fish traps they have built in the stream or search the tidal pools for shellfish. In the afternoon, they work in the small garden they have cleared, tending to the strange but hardy vegetables they have cultivated from wild seeds. They spend long, quiet hours maintaining their simple homes, patching the roofs with bark and moss, and strengthening the walls against the coming winter. There is a new kind of silence in the village, a comfortable, companionable silence that is the very opposite of the pained, isolated silence of the ship. Men can work side by side for hours, their movements synchronized in a shared task, without the need for words. They understand each other on a level that transcends language. The evening meal, taken together around the communal fire, is a time of quiet fellowship. The stories of the voyage are told less and less frequently now. They have been absorbed into the collective consciousness, the dark and necessary foundation upon which this new life has been built. Sometimes in the quiet of the late afternoon, you find yourself walking to the edge of the forest that overlooks the cove. You look down at the small collection of wooden dwellings, at the thin plumes of smoke rising from the roofs, at the figures of your friends moving slowly and purposefully about their tasks. You look at the long ship, now just a skeletal frame, being slowly and respectfully consumed by the construction of the new world. And you look out at the sea, that great gray-blue expanse that was once your entire world. You feel no fear of it now, no anger, no resentment. You feel only a deep and profound sense of gratitude. The sea was your crucible. It burned away everything that was false, everything that was non-essential. It taught you the true meaning of patience, of endurance, of humility. It taught you the value of a sip of clean water, of a moment of stillness, of a kind word from a friend. The memory of the long, boring misery is no longer a source of pain, but a touchstone, a constant reminder of the incredible, miraculous gift of the life you now lead. You have learned that true peace is not found in the absence of hardship, but in the quiet, grateful appreciation of the simple, everyday reality of being alive. And now this story of a long and difficult journey finds its final, quiet harbor. The tale of these sailors, their misery, and their redemption has served its purpose. It has been a vessel to carry you away from the busy, noisy shores of your waking day, across the vast and sometimes turbulent ocean of your own thoughts, and to this safe and peaceful shore of deep relaxation. The journey is over. You have arrived. Let the image of this quiet, autumnal village be your sanctuary tonight. Feel the solid, unmoving earth beneath you, a foundation of absolute stability and security. Hear the gentle, soothing sounds of this peaceful world, the soft crackle of the fire, the gentle murmur of the stream, the distant, rhythmic sigh of the surf. These are the sounds of safety, the sounds of home, the sounds of a world at peace. The long voyage of your day is complete. You have navigated its challenges. You have endured its stresses. You have done all that you needed to do. Now it is time to rest. It is time to let go of the tiller, to furl the sail, to allow your own small ship to come to rest in this quiet and sheltered cove. There are no more duties to perform, no more battles to fight. There is only the profound and healing stillness of the land. Allow your body to sink deeper into this stillness. Let go of the last remnants of tension in your muscles. Feel the weight of your limbs, heavy and relaxed. Feel your breathing, slow and steady and deep. You are safe. You are secure. You are at peace. All the concerns of the waking world are a distant memory, a story from a faraway land. They cannot touch you here. Let your mind, like the minds of the sailors, find its own quiet peace. Let the thoughts of the day drift by like clouds in the sky, and pay them no mind. They are as distant and as powerless as the storms of the distant ocean. Your mind is clear. Your mind is calm. Your mind is still. You are like the sailors, asleep on the soft earth, your bodies and minds engaged in the deep and miraculous work of healing and restoration. Every breath you take draws you deeper into this state of profound and peaceful rest. Every beat of your heart is a soft drumbeat, lulling you further and further into the sweet oblivion of sleep. The story has faded away now, its characters and events dissolving into the mists of your memory. All that remains is the feeling of safety, the feeling of peace, the feeling of release. This feeling is yours to keep, to carry with you into the deepest, most restorative hours of the night. Drift now, let go completely. There is nothing to hold on to. There is only this gentle, peaceful, and effortless descent into a deep and dreamless sleep. The fire is burning low. The village is quiet. The sea is calm. All is well. Sleep now. Sleep deeply. And may your rest be as profound and as healing as that of a weary traveler who has finally, after a long and difficult journey, come home. Sleep, sleep, sleep.